So let's start. Thanks everybody for participating in this Outvise webinar. The topic of the day is AI in insurance. So use cases, we want to understand relevant use cases, and then what the skills does insurance company need to build that use cases, right? So it will be a panel. There will be 3 participants, right? I will introduce you afterwards. If you want, Anna, to let me first, if you want to start with explaining who is Outvise. We are a network of freelancers. We are specialized in tech freelancers. The network is quite broad. It's about 40,000 tech freelancers in Europe, in EMEA. It's a global, and it's tech specialized. So what we say, high-end, higher skilled tech freelancers. So we are different than a traditional agency. We are a platform. So instead of having 200 or 300 freelancers, we have, as I said before, 40,000. That implies that we need to have, and we do have, a strong platform. So we are able to cherry pick what are the best profiles for each opportunity. We invest a lot in technology, right? And thanks to that broad the database of community of freelancers, we are able to offer better quality, better operations, and in the end, a more reasonable price for it, right? So as I said, we have top experts, and that's why we have invited today expert from our AI network, right? So the topic is again AI. As if you go to our YouTube channel, you will see that 3 years ago we started with some AI topics. In that case, we talk a lot about supervised learning. In fact, we did like 4 or 5 webinars. We had Dennis Holovatyi, who's hi Dennis, who is today with us. So we talk about what kind of things could be done with AI. At that point of time, we were a bit word guys, right? Talking about artificial intelligence. We tried to show some pilot cases, but we didn't get the full attention, I would say, of the C-level, right? If you see that what has happened now, and you go a year ago, right? And I think it was the 13th of November. That was when ChatGPT launched, right? When OpenAI launched ChatGPT and took the world by storm. I think it was very comprehensible, the potential of AI, the potential of generative AI, and suddenly our beloved CEOs, the C-level, understood why AI might be different, or why AI is different, and it's different because if you compare with the whole digital transformation projects, right, where our consultants involved had to calculate very, very complicated business cases, right, where sometimes it was not that clear what was the outcome of this in terms of value. Now it's crystal clear, right? There's a huge potential for especially for savings, for efficiencies. And it's relatively easy and quick to demonstrate, right? I don't know who was saying now that if you take supervised learning, you need like 6 months to run a prototype. And now with generative AI, maybe 1 in 2 days, you can have a prototype and a demonstration of what you can do, right? So somehow now I would say the clients understood the potential of AI, and suddenly started to launch project. And I would say that the most impacted, if you want, area has been the supervised learning. So we have had in Outvise plenty of new requests, right, that were referring to what's traditional AI. Then we choose insurance today. Talk about insurance, and we choose insurance because it's one of our key verticals for us. We have worked in a way or another for the top companies in Europe. It's a quite complex business. It's in the end a combination of human and tech interactions, plenty of workflows, a lot of complexity, regulated. But there is a lot of room within today to basically to make these companies, these service companies, more efficient. So this is why we start to talk with this series of AI to talk about insurance. So what we did is we invited 3 experts from our network, and this is what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna introduce the panel. So I'd like to introduce first, if you want, Marc. Marc, if you want to introduce yourself, Marc Wrage.
Yes, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Happy to be here in this webinar. My name is Marc Wrage. I have a PhD in physics. I was for several years with Siemens in Munich. I was a consultant at Booz Allen Hamilton, and for 10 years I was with Deutsche Telekom. Deutsche Telekom, for example, I was vice president for the B2B strategy here in Germany. And after that, I became an independent advisor for technologies and companies in the area of tech, telco, banking, insurance. And I'm very happy to talk about one of my favorite topics here today about AI in insurance.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marc. Dennis, if you want to introduce yourself, Dennis Holovatyi from OSNOVA.
Sure, Paul, thank you. So my name is Dennis. I'm the co-founder and chief AI officer at OSNOVA GmbH. Consider myself an expert in artificial intelligence and process mining. Have been working in the field since 2016. Completed about 20 implementation projects, workshops, use case analysis, AI strategies for customers. Also building chatbot AI community since end of 2016. And mostly are working on the implementations of AI in enterprises.
Good, thank you, Dennis. And then we have Dr. Jesper Heide. Jesper, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. I studied mathematics and physics and did, as Marc, my PhD in theoretical physics. At this point, I already developed my first neural network, AI. And from this point on, I followed this topic deeply and with pleasure. I started, as Marc as well, my career at Booz Allen Hamilton in strategy consultancy, but then changed to insurance and reinsurance. As a permanent employee, I worked for Munich Re for long years, for Allianz, for Swiss Re, for Provincial, and did mainly projects in strategy or IT, respectively AI.
Super.
That's, I think, enough for now.
Yes, we'll talk more now, but yeah, very, very interesting. So thanks all of you. And I would start now with a panel and with questions, right? We said that in the end we wanted to start with use cases, right? From the beginning, what kind of use cases you have expertise. Then I'd like to talk about the profiles, the talent that is needed to fulfill that position, so that kind of projects, that kind of pilots. And then a bit about us, right? How we can help as a platform the insurance companies. So starting from the very beginning, which are the use cases. I think that Dennis has something to tell us about claim management, right? Dennis, if you want to explain us what is your expertise in AI use cases for insurance companies?
Sure, Paul. So a couple of things, let's say. Where I usually like to start is on a more of an abstract level. The modern companies mostly work through managing knowledge flows, right? So mostly people are sending documents back and forth, and based on those documents, different actions are being triggered and different things happen in terms of business process execution. And insurance companies and some other companies like banks, for example, which are purely service-based, a really good example because you don't have frankly, anything to produce. And most of the service, or pretty much all of the service that you provide, is happening in the digital world. Well, except for, let's say, some repairs or stuff like that. But a lot of the value add that insurance companies have is happening in the world of services, and hence is very ripe for automation. Because the current iteration of generative AI, the interesting and kind of unexpected part of it is that a lot of people expected the so-called blue-collar jobs to be automated first, but the reality, as it's showing in the, especially in the last year, but also in the last 3-4 years, it's been a pretty clear trend, is that the so-called white-collar jobs, basically knowledge workers, are being automated first. And if we focus on claims management in particular, and look at the claims management process, right? What's happening in that process when a new claim comes in? Let's say something happens, like an incident happens in the process, be it a car incident or water damage or something like that. The customer calls the insurance company, they talk to the representative of the company, system sends notifications to the claims appraiser, the appraiser evaluates the damage, we assess the cost of the parts, appraiser assesses the cost of labor as well, orders the repair shop to come over and fix things, let's say, and the appraiser notifies the shop, enters the choice into the system. We have the damage assessment, technician comes and does the repair. And after the completion of the repair, both the insurance company and the customer are notified about the repairs, and also respective transactions are being executed to, let's say, pay for the repair shop and do some reimbursements to the customer directly. That's kind of the basic model of the claims management process. And the fun thing is that pretty much at every step of this process, there is an AI automation potential coming through, let's say, getting into the accident. Even back in 2017, some insurance companies started experimenting with, well, taking pictures of incidents, specifically for car incidents in this case, to assess the damage automatically, right? You have 10,000 incidents in the past year. As an insurance company, you train the model to understand how much money each incident costs. Then you send the claims appraiser, and instead of spending 3 hours to assess the incident, they take a picture, or even the customer themselves takes a picture, and there is a preliminary assessment, right? And if that assessment falls below a certain threshold, let's say 3,000 euro for small claims, you can automatically approve it and send the vehicle to the repair shop. This is kind of very straightforward, let's say. I mean, not always straightforward technologically speaking, but a very straightforward. From the business perspective, you cut out the need for long appraisal times for small claims, which is a major issue. With one of the customers that we worked with, small claims were actually the major issue because they were about 70% of all of the claims the customer was receiving. It was not for claims insurance anymore, it was for water damages. And about 70% of the claims were under 3,000 euro. And at the same time, they were spending about 60 days to process those claims because they need to send the appraiser needs to, well, do the work, talk to the repair shop, and there is often some discussion about how much needs to be repaired and so on. And in the end, it took 60 days, and they spent more money on the documentation, on the communication between the agent and the customer, agent and the appraiser, than they actually spent to reimburse the claim. Right. And the simple solution in that regard was to change and automate the first notice of loss, which was poorly done. It was at first not really an AI topic. It was a topic more of a processual topic, right? The kind of questions and the number of questions and the flow of them to collect the first information about the claim was just simply wrong. And the next logical step is to do the assessment of the FNOL through AI. And as you mentioned also, Paul, 3 years ago, it would take half a year to build the natural language processing system to do so. Right now, you can do it maybe not in a couple of days, but in a couple of weeks, you can build you can build a demo in a couple of days. That's true, but something more or less workable, it's rather a couple of weeks, couple of months. But still much less effort and cost than it used to be before.
Right. They were saying, in fact, that before you had to you had to choose one out of 10 potential use cases, and now you can do a quick test of 10 potential use cases at the same time, right? And see, prototype much quicker and see a bit where you can extract more value.
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. Currently, as kind of always in this kind of projects, the implementation always hangs not on the technical, I mean, not anymore, often not on the technical capability. In theory, you could do so. Often it's data access that is the problem, right? If you want to access data from 5 different systems, Guidewire, Salesforce, SAP, and whatnot, usually have a problem getting access to all of those data. Usually, like when you have it, then running a demo, indeed, for multiple use cases would not cost you much more time. But at the same time, I would suggest, like, if you can't execute a certain use case in just one system, let's say Guidewire for claims management, I would just focus on that for the beginning. It's better to move fast and do this like kind of low-hanging fruit kind of thing, to do just 1 or 2 use cases instead of 10, but do it like in a month or 2. And then when you have some success, kind of proceed with additional systems and additional use cases.
And you would recommend to start with these small claims, right? This in the end is
the smaller the better, because one of the things in generative AI that is still kind of tricky is that those systems are, well, they're stochastic, right? They're not random necessarily, but the outputs that they give are inconsistent oftentimes. So they can generate a similar output, but the question is, well, how similar output number 1 would be to output number 2 in terms of claims assessment? And would the claims assessment, for example, change if you run the system once again? So a lot of the time, like, the demo is very simple and quick. If you are going into production, you also need to create structured prompts and do quite a lot of testing and validation of the system to make sure that it outputs the same or very similar response when you run multiple times on the same claim.
Very consistent. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Dennis. Jesper, you want to talk about the home damage claims, right? I think you have some good expertise there.
Yes. One example where I developed an AI was as managing director at Provincial. I developed an AI for the automatic reservation of the damages and claims of residential buildings. Normally, in former times, the photos of this damage came in the morning, and an expert looked at it and estimated how big, which cost occurs on this damage. And as an AI can distinguish between cats and dogs, it can also learn how big a damage claim is. So we developed this AI, and it was really good, though as long as I've been there, it was in a tandem between the expert and this AI system, but the expert was much faster than before. So the costs of handling these claims reduced due to this AI. So there are many potentials, in my opinion, using AI in claims handling. Cars, residential buildings, many claims can be built and can be estimated with an AI.
Good. That's good. Marc, I don't know what's your view there, or yeah.
I would like to start with 2 more general remarks, and the first one is from a strategic point of view and corporate development. Implementing AI is cheaper than hiring teams. Yeah? And this is, apart from all lovely techie discussions, a key topic which will drive adaptation and implementation of AI in many areas. Yeah? It has become increasingly difficult, and of course that's also why we're talking here today, to hire the right people and the right skills. It's true for insurance, for banking, for machinery production, you name it. And what you do is, you use AI to support your existing staff and workforce. You make AI an assistant to your people. For example, you let AI take over financial data analysis and the creation of standard reports so that the real stuff and the people can focus on deep analysis. Yeah. And the second remark from a strategic point of view is AI, especially in insurance, needs to be predictable. Yeah, currently we are talking very much about generative AI, but especially insurance is a highly regulated business. And what you don't want is creative chaos, even not created by AI. So what insurances want and what they need is predictability. And we are, from my point of view, talking more about rather simple AI models, which will support business processes and the stuff within clearly defined boundaries and frameworks. I think that's very important. First, it's cheaper to implement AI than hiring teams. And secondly, AI needs to be predictable. So having said this, as already mentioned, there are many different use cases, and let me focus a little bit on generation and securing revenue. As all of you know, prices for car repairs or house repairs have gone up significantly since 2020. And in return, many insurances have to increase their prices for the policies. Yeah. And this, in return, will drive, of course, customer dissatisfaction and will drive churn. And the typical situation for insurances is that they are very good in acquiring new customers, whereas they are not very good in customer retention. And this is a perfect use case for AI, because by using AI, yeah, and using all the data around the customers, you can really understand the specific situation of customers, their happiness, their loyalty, their degree of dissatisfaction, and the likelihood to churn. And this can be analyzed by the AI very well. And then you can set up certain mechanisms to prevent churn. So what you typically do, and we did this for insurance as well as for telcos, yeah, you start to analyze your customer base in order to show me all the people who have churned. Yeah, show me all customers who have had open cases or issues before they churned. Yeah, show me all customers with more than 3 interactions before we could close their cases. And then you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you really start to understand, okay, what are key drivers and indicators of customer dissatisfaction? So this is a very nice example and use case to prevent churn. Another good thing about when we talk about AI is that you can use rather unstructured data. Before 2010, 2015, we were always talking about data analytics, and principally there was a strong requirement for structured data. Today, AI can build correlations and fill gaps so that you really can work with more or less unstructured data. This is a huge benefit, and it's really a huge benefit. And maybe, because I like it so much, yeah, if we have the time, one more use case, because I'm a B2B guy. You have B2B also in insurances, yeah? Right. And these contracts are very, very complicated, very complex contracts. And every contract needs to be cross-checked and legal terms need to be released, yeah? So instead of defining new contracts every time you win a big deal, yeah, you can use AI to pre-write your contracts as a proposal based on existing paragraphs, existing risk assessment you did already for other big customers. And this is a huge benefit, especially in the B2B area, and a really great use case for insurances.
And this is done by supervised learning, or generative AI has an edge here. It improved
what we really did is, yeah, we took all the existing contracts, yeah, so that the AI could learn from all the existing contracts and copy that in the new form. And it is always of great help for the sales guys that okay, we had similar issues and we managed this contractual topic in the following way. Because you well know that these contracts can easily amount up to a few hundred pages, and get very complicated. And if the sales guys get some guidance how to handle this, he is happy, the customer is happy anyway, and it becomes much faster. You don't want to negotiate with internal legals for months before you can send out the contract.
Good. No, understand. Very, very interesting. Very interesting, all these cases. Maybe let's think about what skills, who do you need to fulfill to build on that cases, on that AI use cases. Dennis, what do you think? What skills you need in claim management, for example, on the cases that you explained before?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I mean, if you're thinking about teams, which I prefer to do, right? Couple of roles, let's say. In every team, you would need a subject matter expert, logically speaking, right? A person who works in the business process every day, because usually it's the only person who actually knows daily tasks. And automation, AI-based automation, usually works on the task level. So as I was describing the claims management process before, right? The claim comes in, customer calls the company, the representative logs the accident, and so on and so forth. Those are all tasks in the process, right? And usually automation happens on the task level. So there's a job of a claims appraiser, and then the person has different tasks. So the subject matter expert is needed to just understand what of the many possible use cases needs to be executed, like which one takes the most time, for example, or which is the most complex, or which.
Sorry to interrupt you. You mean an insurance expert, right? Somebody.
Yeah, insurance, of course, insurance expert. That's the person that needs to be in your team for sure. And of course, you need some sort of project sponsor, head of claims management, CIO, whoever will actually drive the project forward, because that's in any kind of project, AI or not AI, you need a project sponsor. If you talk about more technical roles, the setup changes, let's say, depending on the use case, because if you work on Guidewire, you need to extract Guidewire data, you would need a person who knows the Guidewire data model, right? Which tables, which data objects you need to extract from the system to be able to analyze them. And if you talk more about data-related roles, one important role is the AI engineer. It's kind of a broad role because it changes, the exact skill set changes also from project to project. Sometimes it's a more kind of a machine learning research focused role if the use case is not very known and the company is ready to invest into R&D. But more often than not, it's a very applied role of a person who would work with now common libraries like LangChain, for example, or with vector databases such as Pinecone, which are now kind of just within a year, but they have become a classic kind of a technical backbone, the standard architecture for AI projects. And LangChain is a library for architecting requests to generative AI APIs. And the Pinecone database or Weaviate or Quadrant are various databases where you can store textual information in form of vectors, which you need to feed that data back into the language model. So that's the person who would do this kind of backend work. Oftentimes, there's a separate role of a prompt engineer. Not always. Sometimes the AI engineer can also do the prompting. Oftentimes, they come from different backgrounds. Oftentimes, prompt engineers are former business analysts and not necessarily developers. And AI engineers are usually former backend developers. It doesn't have to be like that, let's say, but that's what kind of happens on the market a lot. So that's let's say the tendency. And the prompt engineer would be the person who writes complex prompts and prompt sequences. And a prompt is essentially, or prompting is the way to communicate with a language model, right? So when you go to ChatGPT and you write something, whatever it is, technically speaking, it's a prompt. And for a lot of personal use cases, people write emails, people do some documentation and so on. It's quite easy and straightforward to write prompts. when you go into corporate environment, you have multiple data sources, you have complex processes, you have a lot of regulations, you have the interaction history with the customer, you have legal contracts and so on and so forth. Prompting stops being very simple and straightforward, and it requires certain architecture. So the AI engineer would build the architecture or code how different prompts in which sequences they're being sent to the API, how the outputs are being processed, and the prompt engineer would actually write those prompts and experiment with the wording and so on. So it sometimes sounds kind of wishy-washy for people who have not built complex prompts, but the thing is that the current iteration of language models, as I mentioned in the beginning, is not very reliable. It creates new stuff every time. And as Marc mentioned, it's not necessarily what insurance companies want and generally what enterprises want. So you have to be very precise in how you word the statement. Sometimes you maybe use additional verb like precisely or only or else or whatever, some simple words that do not actually contain that much meaning, and it changes the reliability of response quite a lot. So prompt engineering is kind of an art and science and experimental discipline. So that would be kind of a second big role that is needed. And they're more of a classic roles like cloud engineer, data engineer that are needed in any kind of data project, not necessarily Gen AI projects. To set up the infrastructure, to spin up cloud instances, to extract the data from the source system, and so on. Those are kind of classic roles.
That's good, and I like this connection, right? When Marc says that one of the key issues is a predictability. Basically, you raise the question also of how do you structure the prompts so that the response is as predictable as possible, right?
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Jesper, tell us about the skills you think, the talent you think you needed to fulfill that use cases in home claim management.
Yeah, I think we just heard very detailed everything which is important. So maybe I can summarize and simplify a bit. To develop a new AI is, in my opinion, very simple in 5 steps. First, you need to prepare the data. Second, you need to select a suitable model which fits. Third, we need to validate this model with this case. Four, the model must be fine-tuned. We heard about it yet. And then number 5, roll it out in an app, in the cloud, in the internet, wherever. And these 5 steps are very specific, and really you need totally new knowledge. So in most companies, this knowledge for these 5 steps is not available. So in the end, you need to find an expert in this model, in this platform. So I think for me it was that we looked for a claims handling artificial intelligence which is already developed, and found an expert in this, and then we developed it. But it depends on the case you want to solve by AI.
And did you do that? Did you did your case with internal employees, or you use
no external? We found a small consulting company which develops AI, and we developed this with these guys.
That's good.
As I said, in normal companies, this knowledge can't be found mostly, I think, because you need data scientists, you need data engineers, application experts, developers, and so on. So I think normally these skills are not available in normal companies.
And then once you had the system up and running, did the company had to hire some of these skills?
No. We could do it by our own. It was just this development where we needed the expertise. Maybe this is different in other cases, but for us it was enough for the structure phase.
Yeah, good. Marc, tell us a bit about your experience there.
Yeah. I mean, Jesper and Dennis already described it perfectly well. I cannot add very much to that. But one topic I think is very important when I look at this topic from a rather strategic and program management perspective. Yeah, I have some key learnings from the recent projects, and one of the first key learnings is you really have to make sure that the use cases you address are really relevant and provide significant business impact. Yeah, I cannot overemphasize this. It doesn't really help if you start to play around with some pilots and do something AI here and there. Yeah, right from the beginning, you really should address big business points. That's very important to really get the lasting support for your IT team and for the budgeting also over the next upcoming years. Secondly, the solution definitely needs to be scalable. So you really have to think about what you want to implement and make sure that it's scalable and that it's not just, again, a pilot who works within a very specific framework. Of course, you need the right people. We heard about this, and I'm always, as Jesper said, it's very unlikely that you have all the right people and skills at hand in any company. Yeah, so it's very important to form teams. Yeah, and these should really be integrated teams, external as well as internal, because you also want to, as insurance and any company wants to gain knowledge, you have to learn, you want to learn from the external partners. The worst thing which could happen that somebody from external implements something and then goes away, and 1 month later you really know nothing. Yeah, it's one big task to partially at least internalize some of the knowledge. And very, very important also, especially with insurances, yeah, you need to clarify legal and regulatory topics, yeah, data security topics, governance topics. You need to address these topics right from the beginning, yeah, because these topics, the discussions within bigger corporates can last up to 9, 12, 18, 24 months. Yeah, this really takes a huge amount of effort and time, and you need people and knowledge who are capable of having these discussions. I think everybody here in the chat can imagine how big the effort is to discuss with the internal legal guys whether you can have certain approaches or not. Yeah, and this has to be covered by the team also. And so if you're asking for the profiles, in addition to what Jesper and Dennis already said, you really need a seasoned, experienced program manager, also with a strategic view who can guide the teams. Yeah, you need, Dennis said, subject matter experts, so people who really knows what the frontline needs, yeah, what the process guys needs, yeah. You need some kind of data science and also the architectural guys to make everything work together. Yeah, because AI really touches very different topics within your IT and your organization.
Right. And it seems that we are at the point where, as you said, maybe even the whole process of legal might take more than the IT project itself, right?
Yeah. It's extremely difficult. So
from a program management perspective, it's very important to have that topic well under control. That's good. Yeah. Very interesting.
My experience.
So we were talking about use cases, or we've talked about use cases. We've talked about what skills are needed to fulfill that. We want to talk about how we can help the companies, the insurance companies on delivering that projects, right? And And I just maybe we can put the slide. We made a quick search. In the end, is a keyword search, right? In the system. Yeah, well, one of the most important areas are data experts, right? And of course, as Marc was saying now, right? I mean, project managers are needed, business consultants, right, on their specific domains, right? Call it insurance, call it whatever. It's also needed, right? What we found is that let's say the all that topics that are continuistic in terms of artificial intelligence are well represented in the database, right? Call it machine learning engineers, calling big data architects or BI consultants, right? All are in the level of 1,000, so we can quickly identify people there and deploy. I think maybe the one that is more challenging is the part of the generative AI, right? There, when we go there, and in that case, Dennis was talking about prompt engineer, right? I think it's a relatively new position, and that's something which is much more difficult to find now, especially because the market has a reduced experience on that, right? Dennis, I don't know if you want to work on that.
Yeah, the prompt engineer is an interesting position. I wrote an article about it 2 or 3 months ago, arguing about whether prompt engineering is a skill set or actually a job, because essentially, you know, when people use a Gen AI in their companies, they are becoming prompt engineers, you know, by the nature of their work, because they start using it in their daily processes. So from that perspective, prompt engineering is just a skill. And in theory, if you have, let's say, a claims appraiser that has been actively working, let's say, with ChatGPT for the past year, this person often can fill the role, or at least part of the role of the prompt engineer. It happens quite rarely, though, especially at the advanced level. So then we come to kind of a second perspective on prompt engineering as a separate job. And I started tracking how many jobs are on LinkedIn since June, I believe. It has increased from 100 to like 500 in this time. Still not many. 500 jobs worldwide for specific categories, not that many. And it also reflects what you said. It is a rare. Almost nobody has a prompt engineering description, let's say, on LinkedIn, and many people who do are not really doing this professionally. They're just talking to the thing, right? They're not actually building products with it. So it is often very challenging to find a person who would be able to implement an advanced prompt sequence that, you know, talks to multiple systems and delivers consistent outputs. It's been a challenge also in the projects that we implement. Because I mean, I personally also do prompt engineering, but also cannot serve every project directly, so to say. So it is quite challenging, but the number of people is increasing quite quickly as well. What I wouldn't expect is like you know, kind of these jokes that people want somebody to have like 10 years of experience with the technology that exists for 5 years. That's definitely not what you should expect with prompt engineering. Oftentimes, if a person has just 2 solid projects in the last year in the area, it's already good enough, because likely you won't find a person who has 10.
Sure. Let me maybe take the chance to launch a quick poll with a couple of questions, and then we can see what happens. So we talk about use cases. And I don't know if you have a moment, if you could click in what use cases are you most interested in, if it's customer service, claims, underwriting, whatever. And also what skills you think are more relevant today, if are related to more, let's say, traditional AI or more to generative AI. You know, if you can respond to that. Okay, I cannot vote.
Yeah, hosts and panelists are excluded.
And we have to wait. So we'll proceed with the results.
Maybe let me add one thing, Paul, here. And I think when we look at the freelancer platform, I think one topic which is important is that you search rather broadly than pointing to one specific topic only. Yeah, my experience is if you're too narrow, the likelihood that you will miss good guys or girls or whatever, yeah, is very high. So be specific, but do not narrow it too much down. This is my experience. Better have a look at the CVs and the competencies, and then you will set up the right team.
Yeah, I agree with you that sometimes the clients ask for very specific tech items.
Yeah.
And that sometimes, I mean, they are relevant, but they are not the one who will make you different, right? Because there are some tech elements that can be learned. It's not a big issue there, right? And by filtering that, you might lose very good people.
Yeah,
so I more than agree with you. By the way, I don't know, Jesper, if you want to add something on the platforms before going to.
No, I think every important thing is said already. So
yeah,
thank you.
Okay, let's go to the results, and those people can see that. Okay, so we have number one is claims. That's the most important use cases, which are good news because these are the topics that we talk about. Second are customer service, right? Which I understand it's related to customer service agents mostly. Underwriting, and then some other cases, right? And then what skills are more relevant? It's curious, right? That generative AI is the most relevant topic now rather than supervised learning, which is curious to the extent that the most of the requests we are getting for clients now is related to supervised learnings, not to generative AI. So somehow the generative AI woke up the whole industry. But our experience is that ML is I mean, I wouldn't say a request every day, right? But almost on that range. Jesper, Marc, Dennis, do you want to comment on that results of the poll? If that's something that surprised you, it's what you were expecting.
It looks quite reasonable there.
It looks all right. I mean, I would want to go a bit into more detail on both use cases and technologies, because yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, let's say, that you have a lot of or more cases in supervised learning, because frankly the technology was available for much more time, and that's the one that that people know and they understand what to do with it. So I don't know if it's possible or meaningful to make kind of a follow-up survey. But maybe we could do that to see in more detail what generative AI is a broad area, right? Like what people are interested in, maybe according to a process, or if people have some specific use cases they were considering and then made a decision to proceed or not to proceed. Why it was as such, that's kind of additional info that I would be curious about.
Yeah, we should go. We should have gone deeper. Let's go maybe to the Q&A. Shall we jump to the Q&A? Perfect. Okay, let's see what are the questions around. So first is John Chip is being recorded. Blah, blah. Hi everyone. Okay, wait a second. Here question. What's the best way for insurance company to build? What is the best way for an insurance company to build a team for using AI? Right. I think we kind of respond that question, right? I'm not sure if any of you want to add something to that. I think Dennis, you started with a bit framing the team, and then Jesper and Marc completed the vision, right? From taking the program management, the legal, including that, and Dennis talked more about the different tech positions also and domain, right? Okay, let's see another one.
Maybe Paul, let me at least comment on this question just a little bit. I think it's a very interesting question because the key question is how to start really. Yeah? And my understanding is, and my learning is, first of all, you need a very a very clear vision of what you want to accomplish. Yeah, you need a clear use case. You need clear benefits. Yeah, so the use case needs a clear business impact. Yeah. Then the next step is, okay, where do you want to allocate the team? Yeah, is it in the sales area, in the marketing area, in the CIO area? You have to clarify that. And then the next thing is the question about the working mode. Yeah, how's the working mode? And if you have clarified this, yeah, then you can start to set up the right team, and also you need to set up the kind of different decision levels, decision meetings, yeah. And then you can start. But I really would strongly propose to really do this so to say homework first before you jump in, because you have to do it anyway. And if it's not clear who's the owner and what's the organizational structure, so on and so forth, we'll get in big trouble anyways.
It doesn't work, right? Let me go for the next one. It's Inge Liselotte. She says, yeah, I think we talked about that. How insurers can make sure that everything is safe and follows the rules, right? I think that's linked to predictability, right? Dennis, you comment something, or Mark, I think one of you both talk about that, right? That one of the problems is that generative AI might not follow the rules, right? For example. Dennis, I don't know if you want to add to that something.
Yeah, maybe a minor detail. I mean, depends on what you classify as following the rules, because, for example, if you have a simple process description of how the AI agent is supposed to interact with the customer, AI actually does follow this sort of descriptions pretty well. So you would say, hey, talk to them, be nice, be polite, don't discuss certain topics, and so on and so forth. Usually systems follow these kind of rules pretty clearly and directly. The problem is more with the legislation, especially since it's country specific. Oftentimes, that's the part that is much more difficult to align AI on, because most systems don't have this data in the training data set, or don't have it in a detailed way enough to be avoid some legal problems. But to be honest, I'm myself not a legal expert, so it's difficult to comment for me on that side.
Good. Here another question about if there is any use cases, if any of you know about use cases related to life insurance. I don't know if you've worked on that. Jesper, no?
Not me, sorry. I'm not a life guy, so sorry, can't help.
I think here it again is the question, what exactly in life insurance, yeah? Is it the sales side? Is it the marketing side? Is it post-processing? Is it bringing new policies to market? So the question here is, what's the topic? Yeah, because some topics you can easily transfer from A to B, others not. So, and as with others, for example, in sales, especially in marketing, yeah, of course, there are good AI examples how you can use AI-fueled marketing to become much more efficient.
Here, Mark, there's a question, maybe it's related to that, right? To say, any ideas, suggestions, reuse cases for related to sales and distribution?
Any ideas, suggestions, use case related to
sales and distribution? I mean, you explain a bit the case, right? That was related to sales, right? With B2B contracts.
Exactly. So, for example, when you talk about sales, maybe we talk about generating new revenues, no? Then you can start to do deep analysis of existing and other customer data. You can use your own data, you can use other social demographic data to maybe create new policies, yeah? For example, for young urban woman between 27 and 35, yeah? special price with special conditions and special way of marketing and distribution, so that you really make the offer fit to this specific customer segment. And the funny thing is that customer segmentation was usually something we know, like best ager or young or something like this, yeah. And now, based on AI analytics, you get much, much better profiles. And your marketing and sales machinery is much more efficient when using these profiles. So that's one of the key topics here to consider.
Okay, let's see, because we have only 4 minutes. Yeah, we have another question from Klaus Brinkmann. He says, AI, for example, health and life insurance and risk assessment are classified by EU and BaFin as high-risk applications for health and life. Doesn't that make applications extremely uneconomical? What's your take on that? I don't know, Dennis, if you have had an experience there in health and life insurance.
No, I'm on the P&C side also. The general thing is also the data protection, that you need to be more concerned when you work in life insurance. But I unfortunately cannot give you like in the detailed.
Okay.
Assessment
Any
on that.
idea also on the directive of well, the AI from the EU Act, so the EU AI Act, if there is any impact on AI for insurers? Do you have any take on that? Has somebody?
I mean, without having read the preview of the complete act, I mean, it's again exactly what we stated earlier, yeah. You don't want a AI generated chaos, yeah. Your AI is very predictable, yeah, and it's something like an assistant to your colleagues, to your staff. So it works within clearly defined boundaries, and it's always controlled. It's not that AI creates, for example, a new policy and shoots it out. So I think here, especially in insurance, you already have this highly regulated environment, which in return makes the EU Act not harm anybody.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we should leave it because it's 1 minute to 5, right? Just for thanks to the whole AI team, right? To you, to Jesper, to you, Marc, to Dennis. I think very interesting learnings on, especially on the claims side, right? Where when we got the recommendations from Dennis, right, to focus on small claims, the whole topic of residential claims from Jesper. Marc saying that it's cheaper to implement AI than acquiring teams. So very, very interesting. We also talk about the different skill set needed, right? A lot of different data roles, AI engineers, how difficult it is to find prompt engineers today, and how somehow complicated is prompting, or might be prompting. That's something that maybe because of there's not that experience in the market, people don't realize how that has to be done. Also, a very clear step model from Jesper about how to set up an AI project, right? From preparing the data to delivering to implementing the whole project in the cloud. And then Marc talk about the importance of program management, because there might be some critical routes, right? That might be not that obvious. Well, I assume that legal and regulatory is a hot topic in insurance. So basically, to have somebody there, right, supported by what Jesper and Dennis said, which is a good domain knowledge, right, on the insurance, right. So, well, many thanks to all of you for participating in the webinar, and let's keep all in touch. And thanks to the audience to be almost 1 hour with us. Okay, thank you very much. So we leave it here.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.